Hello everyone, Michael Mechanical here with another video yet again. So what I'm doing at the moment is I've been doing some research and now I'm getting to the point it's like, there's not really much left I can really do in terms of certain things, but I do now have an idea of roughly what things should be, so even though I don't have what I need to identify stuff, I can at least get some information from other means. Ha ha ha. So there's a lot of parts you can get and there's a lot of parts you can't get. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm actually going to the channel to go view my video. Hopefully I can edit the freaking thing. Edit video. Can I edit this? I'm editing it because I'm going to put in a documents details, essentially. So it can be commented on, suggestions, ideas, and where to get stuff from, so I can review information. So I'm hoping this updates. If it updates, it's cool. So I'm making it possible for you guys to now go and look at this video. Hopefully it won't stop the live stream, but hopefully when you guys go to look at the video, you'll be able to see this thing that says, here's a comment that basically says, here's a document, go view it. I'm just seeing if it actually updated for you guys. Yep. So if you were watching my live stream right now, you could go and you could look at whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to say hi because I want to see how it looks on my screen, because normally it would come up. Yes, it came up. That is sweet. That's actually new because I wonder what's going to happen. I'm just wondering, why does my email say there's an email but there's no email? It's weird. So basically what I found thus far has been, and by the way, you can look at the same document I'm looking at. I have found an air compressor, apparently a rebuild gasket kit. I think it was $87.99. Yep, it was an 87, not 99. They're out of 99s, and I think they've only got limited stock. This is probably going to be one of those cars you have to make stuff up for as you go. It's not like simply just go here, just click here, buy stuff. I think we're literally going to have to make our own gaskets, guys. So what this does is actually bring us to a whole nother ball game. This is actually not as easy as it looks. And because it says it's an anonymous raccoon here, I'm going to presume that someone else, yeah, anonymous raccoon would probably be someone else looking at the same document. I have no idea where they would be in the document. It just says anonymous raccoon, and that normally means that implies there is someone else looking at the same document I'm looking at. Meaning there could be someone watching this live stream, and I don't even know. So like I was trying to say, guys, it's going to bring us into a whole new ball game. We're probably going to have to actually go and look into manufacturing gaskets. And that's going to be interesting. So I've already got ideas on what to do. The idea is going to be getting the gasket goos. So if we can't get a rocket cover gasket, we're going to make one. Essentially, we're going to take the rocket cover off. We're going to goop it on the inside, like with that ultra blue stuff, and just goop it, like crazily goop it. And we're going to find out what we can do, because I know there's a problem. The problem with that stuff is it doesn't set all the way through. It's only good in small layers, whereas if you have like a huge chunk, it will never sit on the inside. I learned that in my car after a couple of months of driving around. I literally went to take out the pan. What do I think about other YouTubers at the same time? I went to take off the pan in hopes that I could get off my oil pump. And when I did that, I took out the bolts, and the bolts had that ultra blue stuff, and it was still wet after the engine had been that hot for so long. It was like, it's still wet. What the hell? So what I've got to do now is I'd love to actually show you guys what I'm actually typing, but I'm gonna go look into. If I could show my screen, that'd be cool. I'm going to look into manufacturing, and that would be intake manifold gasket. And I think I know roughly what to do in order to do that stuff. So first of all, before you do anything, you'd need the shapes, the sizes, the measurements, and all that stuff. I could take that gasket off, and this is for a steel one. This isn't going to be one of those standard gaskets, because what happens is they put like a groove in around the edge, and once that groove's there, when you clamp the steel together, it will crush on that point, and that means there'll be pressure in between contacting surfaces. So that's why they put those grooves there. However, effective, not without extra grip. Like, you could use GM sealer, you could use your high temp exhaust manifold goop. That's pretty much what's on there in the first place. So how would you make... I'm literally looking for some word information rather than watching a video. The production of intake manifold corresponding... Because it's got to be something that can take the high pressure. You've got a turbo, you've got gases, hot gases coming out and pumping up, and it's building up pressure. It's got to hold the pressure in, but it's also got to hold it. It's pretty much just got to hold it in. It's got to hold in the heat. It's got to hold in the air, and it can't let go. So casting, making intake gasket. And it's not as simple as, oh, you find a video that's make it out of cardboard and it's done. It is literally, how do you manufacture this gasket? And then, okay, you've manufactured a gasket. Now, what are the prerequisites for that gasket? Such as materials. You can't just use cardboard. I mean, cardboard is a flammable material. It will burn. It will burn and then you'll have leaks. It can't hold the same pressure as other materials. How to make an intake manifold gasket. It's a video. It's a bit of a shame it's made so hard. Here's another video. Quick slideshow how I fabricated the intake plenum for my project, blah blah. Oh, it sounds like water. That's an animation. And what are they doing to this car? Look, this is what I'm watching right now. It's how to replace an okay, I thought this was how to make a gasket. There's another one here that says making a gasket. This noise, oh my god. I'm literally, this does not help us much. Looking at these videos like this is actually, it could be copyright infringement. I'm not sure actually, because I'm not actually focusing on the video those. I'm actually just showing you this is what I'm looking at, essentially. The thing is, these are useless to us because this is making a manifold and replacing a gasket. We want to manufacture a gasket. From what I understand, the first things we need to figure out is graphite. That is the key ingredient to making some gaskets. Like, what is the composition for this graphite gasket? What do we need? Because that's what they do for head gaskets. It's lubricating for surfaces and stuff. So graphite gasket roll. I don't know if there's such a thing as a gasket roll. Gaskets and seals. Graphite gasket material inserts. And then it says, your dependable experts for gaskets, materials, and custom fabricated parts. That is what we need to hear. That it's custom fabricated parts. We're not talking about specifics. We're talking about things more than what we wanted. This could be what we want. It says graphite gaskets and seals on budget and on time with unbeatable customer service, 90 years of reputation across the country. What country? You just say, no. It's refineries, chemical and paper mills, industrial fluid, vibration dampening, steam services, cryogenic thermal, electronic and electrochemical applications. Thermal sounds about right. Temperature ranges minus that to plus that. Whoa. So I need to see it'll hold pressure of 2000 psi. So that's good information to have. It has gauge thicknesses. This could be what we need, guys. Graphite gasket in material inserts. But remember, this is also a gasket material. Because when we're doing these videos, it actually makes it a little bit easier. It depends on what we want. Reinforced with ideal for making most industrial fluid sealing. No, we don't need industrial fluid sealing. We need compressor, because your engine is a compressor and it's a high temperature compressor, so you need those two properties, a compressor with thermal. So thermal compressor. One says fluid sealing. Fluid is a liquid. It doesn't necessarily mean it's hot or cold, but it could withstand the properties of compressor because it's holding fluid. It literally would sound like a construction vehicle or something. It is like trying to find this information. Heat exchanger gaskets and corrugated metal gaskets. Carbon content of this graphite material is blah blah blah. Homogeneous rolls or sheets are free of any fibers, binders, or additives. This makes it extremely comfortable to any flange surface imperfection in a relatively low pressure sealing condition. Is often used for metal jacketed gaskets, heat exchanger gaskets, and corrugated metals gaskets. So I got a trick up my sleeve. If it comes down to it, and I had to pick that gasket, I would. That one right there, homogeneous. But the thing is, think about it like a cylinder. You have that fire ring. I'd put fire rings in this if it didn't have those properties already, or some sort of property to keep the pressure in, because that is going to seal surfaces, and it's going to help transfer heat, and it's also for low pressure sealing conditions, so we're not sure what that's going to do or how it's going to react. Omega-rous. So the question is, they're in Illinois. Okay, that's in Illinois. That's on the other side of the world. Probably not going to work out. Can I find something closer to home? Thank you. Gasket roll. Australia. Gaskets and soft products. Steam and process. Industrial gaskets. It's because if we're talking about when we're making gaskets, all these things that people don't understand is you could buy material, and any material will do for a period of time, but unless you're choosing the right materials with the right properties, it's not going to help. So when you're going into automotive, people straight up think automotive part this, automotive that. What was the thing that came before automotive? It was literally the materials themselves. So if you know what you're looking for before it got turned into this gasket for this car, automotive, then you've got a chance at literally making the automotive gasket. So there's a whole bunch of factors that affect how we can get something and make something to do the task we need to do. This is in Australia. What do you guys make? If they say they do automotive products, it's awesome. In fact, I might even use the keyword. Oh, automotive gaskets. So what type of gaskets do they make? The next hard part to the engine rebuild is we don't actually have any specs on head bolts, so we don't know how tight they're going to go. All we know is we can get them, and that's all we know. We don't know how tight though, so that makes it hard. Laminated jointing, jointing comprising of beta edition paper with graphite finish with steel insert with graphite finish. Okay, laminated joining composing of beta edition paper sandwiched between two perforated tin sheets. That's about what we normally get, but normally we not just do that. There's a bunch of stuff we need to figure out. If I can get some of this, a sheet of this sort of material, I could literally cut the materials and stuff. Just so we know what I'm looking at now, because there's someone actually watching. How you doing? Okay, so what I'm looking at right now is this company called Southeastern Gaskets. They're literally an Australian company based on the .au factor, meaning this is close to home. Now, this material here essentially makes those gaskets, and that's the gaskets we want to be able to manufacture. So the question is, can I buy it by the sheet? There's like that picture there, but I can't tell. On my keyboard, I can't tell if that's actually perforated material that you can buy on like a roll or something. Because if that's what I can get, I get a sheet of that, and then I can remanufacture the Tata's manifold gasket. So if I can't buy a gasket, I'll make one, and then I use gasket goop to help seal that up, and that should do the trick. I'm pretty sure it should do the trick. Doesn't mean it will. That's the tricky thing. I don't know what's going to happen. So I think this is actually going to be a very interesting topic, because not many people ever go as far as making gaskets for their vehicles. They literally buy them off the shelf and use them, or buy different thicknesses. They don't actually go out. What's the plan, boss? I'm joining late. Okay, so I don't know if anyone knows what the topic of the video is. It's pretty much parts. As everyone should be aware, the Tata is an insanely difficult vehicle to get any parts for. And there's literally that document, if anyone's opened it. It's in the comment section below, in the description. Sorry, not in the comments, in the description below. And it literally has a sheet with information I've gotten from the past and new information. I've literally lost my parts sheet, but most of the parts that I had in that sheet are probably here anyway. So parts I found are in the build plan. I didn't spend much time on this, so I apologize. It looks filthy, but stuff I've found thus far are in the build plan section just below that, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find resources like the things. What do you need for 100,000 kilometer service? We know that is a water pump. We know that's for the diesel engines. They have a head gasket that needs replacing, because you're taking the head off to do the valve regrind on the diesel. We know from the prior videos that there are 2 cylinders at 400 psi and 2 of them are down. That means we might have some bad seating in the first 2 cylinders, and if we get them up, that vehicle should run a lot better than it does now. Literally, the reason we want to do this is because when we're driving the thing, it literally stalls at the lights. It's very difficult to get going until you're going. Once you're going, it's all okay. But it's also been a bit abused in its life. We can get the timing belt kit, so we can literally get tensioners, we can get the timing belts for the thing, and do all that. Thinking about it is making me think about other things. So literally, if I think about the timing belt in there, what if there's absolutely no timing marks? I'm thinking about it, because you don't know what to expect when you do this. It's one of those things where you have to be one step ahead of everyone else in order to successfully pull off a repair like that. And you also have to be one step ahead of yourself. You can't risk making a mistake. But this is I guess kind of cool, because we don't know how this is gonna go. We don't know if we're gonna pull this off. We don't know nothing, and the major risk with it is if we do all that work and all the parts fail, there is literally a lot of money on the line with those parts. But at least if they go on there, that thing hasn't done many kilometers. That is because if they did the kilometers on it, no one would buy it. So they sold it early to give the problem to someone else. Someone else abused it by not driving it properly, and so it needs the attention that it needs early. Otherwise, it would have 27,000 kilometers before the service was due, but it seems due because of the power down. So I literally cannot find the exact thermostat, but I found a 2005 to 2011 that says 80 degrees. Now, if we can't get a thermostat for the thing, there is a housing on the outside of the vehicle. Yep, that's probably what it's going to come down to. Also, to be a bit interesting about this scenario is no one wants me to do this. My dad doesn't want me to do this. My mum doesn't want me to do this. They want me to get rid of the car, give it to someone else. But no one knows how to do this stuff, so it's a really good topic. It's literally like, if we can build a car without needing anyone else to give us parts, sell us parts, if we can literally make the things on our own, yeah, everyone would want me to do it. The thing is, it is going to be such a cool project to actually pull off. There's a bunch of hard things to do with it. Okay, to make the gaskets, you need to be an engineer, because the mechanic is the guy who disassembles and reassembles to a specification. The engineer gives those things that specification. So when those materials go together, the engineer calculates what it needs in order to hold the pressure, what you need in order to move any heat, and then what torque in order to hold the pressure inside and seal it. And why you would not over torque it from a certain setting because of the thermodynamics. I'm not an engineer, and I'm more of a mechanic than an engineer, but based on what I know engineering wise, I think I could learn how to pull this off. So I can't straight up go, it needs to be this torque and it has to be of these compositions of materials. I'm literally using experience to say, this is the material I need. You don't just pick anything. But I know why I need those materials as well. Because some of them, you need the steel because you got to hold in the pressure. But you need the graphite in order to transfer the heat. Because if you had a solid steel gasket, that's not necessarily going to seal things. With the graphite, it's going to seal a little bit, but you need the steel to seal, because it's got to seal high pressure. It's a bunch of factors. And when the engine's at temperature, the graphite would probably expand just enough that it'll put pressure on the steel and hold the thing shut at tension, because the graphite would have a different expansion rate to steel. I can't tell you that I know this stuff for certain. I believe that's how it would work. There is no guarantees on that. So what I've got thus far, knowledge-wise on the vehicle, it helps. I know what the engine code is. I can't find parts for the engine. I cannot find a water pump. I cannot find the exact thermostat. I cannot find the exact head gasket, but I can find a bunch of head gaskets. I can find oil filters, because that's genuinely a service. Yeah. But we can also find time belts and tensioners. We cannot find hoses. So what can we do? Okay, you guys, I'll take you from the easiest level to the highest level of what difficult things are to do. So the easiest things to do right now at level 1 would be essentially your timing belts and tensioners and your oil and filters. Yeah, no, you don't need special hoses, but it's sort of a level 2 thing. That's what I'm going to go on to. So level 1 things are essentially oil filter, air filter, fuel filter. Yep, you can. The time belts and tensioners. Level 2 would probably be your hoses, and the reason I say hoses is because you can get them anywhere. You just need to get the right size ones. You can cut them to size, but you can also have them manufactured. My neighbor, who used to work at Holden's before they closed down, he actually I'm going to see him about this later. He said he knows a place which actually makes the hoses for the radiators and air intakes and stuff. So, because someone like him knows that stuff, I would believe, because it's local as well, you could easily go somewhere and get those things made up locally, because we know it's local and we know there's someone around that can do this stuff. Level 3 would essentially be your stuff that you can sort of do, but you need to replace with something else. So if it's a part that you can't get, but you could put something in its place, it'd be pretty much the thermostat. Maybe the water pump. That might also be a level 4 sort of thing. Level 4 would definitely be the head gasket, the intake gaskets, because they're not simple things. They're a little bit more, there's a little bit more to it, that you can't just grab a piece of paper, cut it to shape, and then slap it in there, because the paper's going to burn. It's not going to hold pressure. So that's how that works. So I'm just wondering now, what is my next step? That's why I've got to work on the build sheet, because the build plan, because the build plan is going to help me identify what my steps are going to be to pull this off, because it's not easy. And I'm literally writing in the details roughly, because once it's done, it's like, this actually worked. Now let's make a refined document, make this look nice and neat and tidy. So what I'm thinking of doing is filling in the blanks. I've not got everything in here, and even maybe turning this into a sheet. No, never mind. I'm not going to turn it into a sheet. I'm actually going to insert a table. And the reason being is, like I said, level 1, 2, 3, 4. It's to make it so I know where things are and where I stand with that stuff. It's like saying, these are the easy things you can do. These are the things you can't do. Okay. Now that I understand that, I can then go into the phase of what I need. So I might actually just say this. And like I said, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've messed up, but that's okay. So like I said, level 1 is the things you can get. Like something a mechanic can just get. So that's air cleaner. I'm going to try and make this neater than this. This is disgusting. But for now, it's going to have to do. Air cleaner, fuel filter. Is there anything that people think it should be in the level 1 section that I'm probably not going to list? Air cleaner, fuel filter, oil filter. Also, I've got to consider also the rear brakes, the drums. If there's drums, I can't even tell you, because there's literally a plastic cover over a steel rim which only has small slots in it, so you can't see through it. I should literally actually move these things straight into those sections. That would actually make my life a little easier, I guess. Fuel filter. And I said in level 2, the hoses was level 2, because we can get them anywhere. 2 is hoses. Oil filter, go away. Thermostats, level 3, because it's something you could put in something else in its place. The thermostat, by the way, I believe would be about 80 degrees. The Triton's one is 82, but I've got a 77 in there, so that gives me the idea of if it actually is, that's a 5-degree gap, I believe. If I can literally go 5 degrees less, then I can put a 77 in there, make a new housing, and just say, make some documentation up to go with the car, so if I sell it, literally someone could easily just get the same thermostat and put the same one in there if they think there is any issues whatsoever. I've also got to figure out if there is any difference between a thermostat at the bottom of the motor and a thermostat at the top of the motor, because if someone was to buy the car and want to replace it, or let's actually go back further than that. If I wanted to put it in there, there might be different properties for something that goes at the bottom of the motor opposed to the top. And I don't know if there's much difference with how they are positioned and what their designs are for those positions. So literally, you could be stabbing yourself in the foot by putting a thermostat for the bottom of the motor at the top of the motor, because the water pump might be pushing fluid through that way and then shut it. Instead of it opening, it might just, shut. Under pressure, it will just stay closed. It literally probably won't open, which is why I'm thinking about things the way I am. Literally, with it, I'd think the vacuum would close it. With mine, you've literally got an opening like this and water flows in that way, but the water pump's on this side, not on this side. So if I put this up here, it would open this way. Yeah, pressure would push it away. It's interesting stuff to think about, because if there's no thermostat in that, we have no idea which way it's meant to go. So I said thermostat. Timing belts and tensioners are a level 1. Head gaskets, it's level 4. Water pump, I have no idea what level that is. I'm so tempted to put in a level 4. Add level 5 and move water pump to level 4. Or maybe even level 5. I don't even know, because I don't know if there's anything that could go in this water pump's place. There's all these interesting factors. It's not just buy a part, put it in. It's literally about finding something that matches up. And that's gonna be insanely hard, to say the least. I'm actually just going to move it into the level 4 section, because I know for certain that's going to probably be difficult. Because if I can't find a water pump, then how am I supposed to fix it? Also, we're going to take a chance on something as well. Everyone who knows engines should know they have an oil pump. I am going to take a chance on the fact that that thing's still very good, and it's probably not going to die for 1,000,000 kilometers, hopefully, so it's got 900,000 left in it. With that belief in mind, I'd look after the car at this point, because if I thrash it, which is what you don't want to do to a car with delicate parts and very hard to replace, but if it literally lets go, the whole engine's gone, and everything goes down the drain. All your hard work, everything. So what I'm now going to do is figure out how I'm going to do this. I literally want to make this as easy as I can to find stuff. I feel like I need another row. Insert row. No. Another column to the right. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in all the resource links and put them where I believe they go. So level 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm also going to try and... Actually, not. Instead of trying, I'm just going to do it. Level 1 is stuff you can buy and replace. Level 2 would be anything you could get manufactured. Level 3 would be put something in its place. And if anyone is looking at the document, they're probably going to see it's getting updated right now a little bit in page 1. Just a little bit. I've got level 1, 2, 3, and 4 is essentially, it has to be made up. It has to be custom made. Head gasket would actually be a little bit more simple, I think. You could put something in its place. That is actually kind of true for this one. You could put something in the head gasket's place. What can't we do? We couldn't do manifold gasket. And we could not do the rocker cover. In the simple stuff, we can do seals, such as seals, cam, crank, balance shafts if it has any. yeah. So have you guys got any ideas on what we should try to do, like any order of things we should do first? Should we do the hard stuff first, or should we do the easy things first? Because I'm sort of in that zone which I'm trying to figure out what order things should be done in. Say, for example, we start working on this thing tomorrow. What are the steps we should take before we do stuff? Okay, hard stuff. So that literally means taking the engine apart, finding the parts that we need, finding the material, getting the materials in. So while we're pulling this apart, they arrive. Then we've got them side by side, and we just cut, shut. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Let's put a subwoofer in there. I like the middle of the word subwoofer. It says woof. I'm gonna woof you. ah, yeah, that's the one thing I always notice with subwoofer. Oh, it shuts. Yep. So hard stuff first. Okay, that's what we do then. We do that. Where have I written stuff like order of stuff? Build plan. Okay, that's the build plan. I'm done. I don't have a section that says. Oops, that's 2 pages. So steps. We need. So, say for example, we've got the engine and we've got the whole car in, and we're pulling it apart to get the hard stuff first. So essentially, head gasket, manifold gasket, rocket cover gasket, because we can't get a rocket cover gasket. What would be the first thing we'd do before getting parts, before pulling it apart? What would we decide? Because if we pull it apart, there's literally no going back. We literally have to find a solution. Because if we pull it apart, those parts are not going to be good anymore. We need to put something in their place. So what do you guys think we should do? Is there anything we should get in some circumstances or in all circumstances? Because I'm literally trying to figure out how I do this. Because normally what I do, actually not, maybe I should follow the mechanics rules. Because what I do normally is I know what my car is, and I literally order the parts. And while the parts are coming, I'm pulling it apart. And then when they arrive, I go in another car, pick them up, come back, and put it all together. Yeah, that's what I like to think as well. But when I understand what they do in mechanics workshops, what they normally do is they literally pull things apart first, get the part, and then make sure they get the same thing before they fit everything. So they take it apart. Here's the part we need. Go up to someone who can find this part. They order something in, and then they just make sure it's the same part. And if it's the wrong part, they send it back, order in another one that's different type. And that's what they normally do. So I'm in this boat where I need to know. We don't know what the manifold gasket is, and we can't make one unless the thing comes off, because we literally need it as a template. For the head gasket, I don't know if we make one, or I don't know if I can order one in, but I'd likely order one in for that, because if you get the right head gasket, the thing will thermodynamically work well for the life that's in the vehicle. If you have to make one, there's the copper head gasket, but my dad said what the copper gasket does is it holds in heat, and we don't want to do that with a diesel engine because it can kill it quicker because you're holding in all that heat. But the reason it's okay on the head gasket more so than the manifold gasket is because water is circulating and pulling that heat out of the copper. So that's kind of the only good reason to have a copper gasket on the head gasket, but not for a manifold. Because there's literally no cooling effect on the manifold of water pulling the heat away quickly. So Do we follow what the mechanics do, or do we make sure we have the parts first? Because I don't think we can actually get the parts beforehand. Or do we make sure we order the materials? Maybe that's what we mean by when we say we order the parts first. Because without the materials, we can't make something, put it in its place. It's a lot of logic shooting before you do something like this. The car still drives. We can road trip it to the shops tomorrow if it was registered, but it's not. So essentially, I'll take that. I think that's probably the best way to take it is get the materials and parts that you can get maybe beforehand. Yeah. Okay, now that I've read it, I got another perspective. I understand exactly what you said. So I misinterpreted. I took it as parts. You said, actually, no, I got it on my computer. Why don't I just read it off the computer instead of trying to use the phone for everything? Make sure you have everything you've got before you start. So I misinterpreted that badly. I apologize for my dumb brain. So that's probably what we're going to call the first step. And that's because it's probably the best step in there for this. Second step, would we pull it apart? No, because we can't just pull it apart. We literally got to get rid of all. We got to clean up the environment around us, and we've also got to get all the oils, coolants out of the system before we can start. So that would be the step of essentially draining. What am I making all myself? I have no idea what you're talking about. But I'm not going to make everything on my own because literally manufacturing actually does take time. When you look at a hole and you have it in a critical position, it might take you half an hour to an hour just to figure out where the center of that hole is, if it has to be within so many hairs of another position. And this is because in my dad's work, they're doing something like that right now. The document says 365 critical. Yeah. You literally need, if you have a difficult thing like this to do, it's probably critical we have the documentation to share this information around because this isn't something that's going to be easily replicatable. So setting up steps to achieve the end result might be a good idea, and also being able to share the information of what you can get to help you fulfill the task. So even though we have these videos that we can make, I'm not going to be able to make all of them because, for Christ's sake, I don't have a proper camera. I don't do video editing much. I just do the live streams and they work well. Yeah, but this information, I believe, is like one of those holes that hasn't been filled. It's literally one of those holes which people are going to fall into. It's not worth it to make all of the gaskets and all of the stuff on your own. You're going to waste your life doing that. But in a case where we have a Tata that you can't buy the stuff for, it's worth making it, even though it's going to cost you time. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, Eden. I don't know how to pronounce it, but good night to you. It is brain twisting to try and figure this out, especially with a lot of inexperience with some experience. Actually, today, someone with experience, he pulled out a radio out of the boss's truck, and it's his brother that pulled it out. And he ended up calling someone on the phone about something, and he told us it looks like a matchbox. But when I found what we were looking for, it's essentially a voltage converter. It takes 28 volts, 24 volts, or whatever, and converts it to 12 volts. When we found it, it was actually a big box like a cigarette box, maybe even it was bigger than a cigarette box. Found it. He said, You seem to know what you're doing. I can't help any more than what I've already done." So he left, and with a little bit more digging, I found another fuse that we didn't get to check. I checked through the voltmeter, it was dead. Got another fuse, put it in there, tested. Radio came on, it's all fixed, it's all working, put it all back together. Done and dusted. So draining and cleaning, including your environment. Because the second step I've got here is essentially draining and cleaning everything, including your environment. The reason you need to clean everything is to make it easier to see things, make it easier to work with, because literally greasy parts slip out of your hands. So if you can get all the grease off and you can have like a dry component, it's easier to grab and hold. And I've literally dropped so many round things that are soaked in oil and grease. You know, I would rather hold dry stuff any day. Unless I'm wearing gloves, then I can touch some greasy stuff if I can't help it, because it's always getting greasy. Cleaning your environment is because if you don't have a clean environment, it's hard to take parts off the car and put them somewhere. It's hard to lay out your tools that you need for this job so you can sort of go backwards. And simply that's reasons why you need to clean up your environment. If you don't, then you're going to set yourself up to be in the position of taking a lot more time, struggling and thinking, where'd this part go? Where'd that go? I've been in boats looking for parts and I couldn't find them. So there's that. And then 3 would be essentially probably gathering all the tools you need. To start and finish the task. So when with step 3, you've got to gather all those tools. If you don't have all the tools ready on hand to pull that head off the car, to pull off the manifolds off the car, to pull everything apart essentially, maybe even the front end of the motor, without those tools, it's impossible and everyone knows that. Step 4, it's all pretty simple stuff. I think it's a little bit easier now because it's like it all goes back to general mechanics. Essentially, the reason this has to be written out like this is to make sure that the person who follows in the footsteps that I'm about to take can do it a little bit easier than I did, and to understand that if they have a difficult vehicle like this to get parts for, they don't have to try and go looking for another one. They literally have everything there all organized that they can just pick it up, put it on, and have no drama because they don't need it. So I'm going to keep working on this document for a little bit longer, then I'm going to head to bed, just like everyone else has. From there, I'm going to see what materials and stuff I can get, maybe even look even deeper for the actual parts, because if I can get the parts, there's no need to make them. But if I can make them, if I have to make them, I'm setting everyone up for that sort of scenario. Water pump wise, I think we're in trouble already. We might have to figure out how we're going to do something, whether it's rebuilding the water pump that's existing or making a new one, because people do that. They make electric ones and they fail because they leak. If anyone's ever watched Roadkill, yeah. The fun challenge. I'm lost. What was the fun challenge about? Making all the parts for your own car? Okay. Like I said, making things takes time. So if you can buy them ready-made, you can just put them together. If you really... Oh yeah, the water pump is going to be the fun challenge. Yes, that is true. I'm not going to worry about the oil pump because the oil pump couldn't be too worn out. It's been well maintained, except for the fact they haven't driven it well. This is, okay, with a diesel engine, what I've read up, what I've learnt, and there's fundamental reasons why. They say with a diesel engine, at least once a week, you should take it out on the highway doing 80 or 100 kilometers for about 30 minutes. And the reason that is because the valves opening and closing all the time get carbon built up on the tops. And it's at those operating temperatures that the heat's just enough that the carbon's going to burn off and leave the system, that essentially it will look after your engine. Even though you are pushing it, you're also doing it some favors. That also means you don't have the expense of pulling off the head early. It means you can save it for a bit later down the track. Yeah. Even on Engineering Explained, he did a video, I believe, on when carbon burns off, and it was something like 300 degrees. There's like a certain temperature in which it burns off, and then the higher you go, the more it sticks, and the lower you go, the more it sticks. It was kind of a weird scenario. I think it was at a higher temperature that it built up worse than the lower temperature. But the lower temperature, yeah, from what I understood, maybe I misunderstood the video, but essentially carbon did build up in most of those engines at high and low temperatures, but not at that sweet spot where everything was right in temperature. Because the valves get hot enough that carbon burns off, and the combustion chamber is hot enough that carbon's not going to stick to anything. If carbon's sticking to things, it's not getting hot enough. If carbon's sticking to things, I can't even understand how that even worked. I'm going to have to rewatch that video to figure out if I understood it correctly in the first place. Yes, it is cool. 1 subscriber away. Steps to fix this engine. Number 3, number 4 is going to be next. Everything sounds confusing. And once you know so much stuff, and then you can pick on everything you understand, it's like, which one's true and which one's false. After the course I just did, it makes sense to have evidence to back up what you're saying. So when I say making a head gasket with certain materials because of the properties you need for thermodynamics and holding pressure, there's evidence to say that you need those things. And if you use paper, the reason not to use paper is because it doesn't hold pressure and it literally burns. I could probably put a lighter on a head gasket and it won't burn, or it might burn, but not catch on fire. And if I put a flame to a piece of paper, it'll burn so quick. It'll be gone so quickly. And that's why there's evidence to back up. Get a proper head gasket. Do things as properly as you can, because you don't want to do that same job twice on that difficult vehicle. Here's another problem with that vehicle. I don't even have torque specifications for the head, so yeah, I should add that to the list of things I need with the head gasket. So that's what I'm going to need. If I have to make a head gasket, that's going to be scary because you need fire rings, you need the right seals in the chambers, or I could just go copper and then I'll be okay. Yep, that's the simplest way out. Oh, it's getting cool in here. Like, it's been cold for ages. That's why I'm like moving my fingers a lot, because literally the AC, if you can see, there's the light on right there. I cannot point at it very well. It's right there. There. That is signifying that's on and operating, and it's 18 degrees according to my remote, and it does probably feel 21-ish in here. It doesn't feel like 18 because the school air conditioner was on 24 and that thing was ice cold compared to this one anyway. Step 4 would be generally dismantling the thing. So For step 4, I pretty much said dismantle machine, keeping parts neatly packed away to the side to make sure that the parts don't go missing or walkies or anything. Step 5 would be prepping all sealing surfaces and cleaning and prepping. Because if we don't clean the surfaces, we can't put it back together, and you can't get a neat gauge on what the shape of materials are. Because another reason why cleaning is important is if I was to get a piece of paper and it literally was a solid thing that I wanted to like imitate on another piece of paper, and you have a lump of stuff in the middle, you'll never be able to sit it flat enough that you can get a proper measurement. In fact, you might have that lump in the middle where when you try to press everything flat, there's going to be this, like, instead of being solid like this, there's going to be like a concave shape, and so you'll never get the shape to another piece of material quite right. The sizes will not be correct. The variation will be too much. So that's why you need clean surfaces to make things. So that helps a little bit more, doesn't it? And we've got the Triton in the background because everyone loves the Triton. Don't change it to silver. That's what I've been told. A lot of people have said to me, don't change it to silver, because my dad doesn't want it silver, because when he drives with it, and I've driven with it like this as well, you just drive behind people, they literally change lanes because they see you. And they don't want to be behind, they don't want to be in front of you because you're in this big monster car, and they're like, oh shit, there's a car there. But it just seems that way. I don't think it actually is that way. I mean, a car's a car, no one really cares. I think it's the driver that people are scared of. Then with number 6 is to essentially, is it stencil out? I'm gonna stick with that, that's fair enough. It's pretty much the end of the night. I think I will call it a night because there is now no one watching, but there was one person giving the thumbs up, which is what I'm happy to hear, and I'm happy that people like this content and they want more. Anyway, good night everyone. A little bit more to go, and I'm